And essentially, this is the manager slash supervisor slash HR manager's view of Rubler. The other view that you were having a look at on your phone is essentially the employee view for the most part. And the employee view is app driven. And as you've seen, I'm just going to move my phone onto the screen. So this is my phone in front of you here that you can see. I'm just going to go into the app and start mirroring it. Just give me a second. Come on. So from an app point of view, the employee has access to what we call the Rubler application. And the Rubler application is essentially the device that's communicated the rosters and your ability to look at your rosters, take leave, look at your pay slips, clock in and out, see all your expenses, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So what you will notice here, this is Kerry. Kerry's our demo employee. And Kerry has her roster. And you can see that this week she's working on the 16th of May. This month she's working again on the 25th. And when we look at that, we can actually see her shift on the 25th. She's working at a location called Location Tree. And she's working 8 hours from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on the 25th of May. And she's working as a cook. She could make this shift available for swapping if she wanted to swap it with another colleague that's a cook that can work at that same location and that can work at that specific time, which we'll get into around some of the detailed features. She also has the ability to pick up shifts if we switch this on and off, and this allows her to pick up shifts that are up for swapping. So in other words, if another cook has made a shift available for swapping because they can't work it, she can actually pick up the shift. So think about gig work, think about the gig economy, think about where things are going in the future around flexibility of work, and this all talks that sort of language. She also has the ability to go in and take leave if this is connected to a payroll system. So in other words, if Kerry wanted to take leave for a specific period of time and she wanted to take annual leave, it would essentially give her all her balances around her annual leave policies or whatever it may be, and she can actually go and put in some leave for her manager to approve. You can also have a look at documents, so any documents that have been sent to her to sign off. So let's say, a new policy, a new smoking policy has been set up by the organization and they want her to sign that document. She would actually see those documents here, or any type of HR-related documentation that she needs to keep on her side. So, when you sign an employment contract and then, you've got this piece of paper that you put in file 13, and then when you need the employment contract, you can't find it. This kind of solves that problem, right? So all her documentation or all work documentation can essentially be kept on the Rubler application as well, or workflowed from the web interface to the application. If it's connected to payroll, she would essentially see all her pay slips. It's going to show you what that looks like. So she would get all her pay slips that she's been paid through the payroll. And if I go and click this view pay slip here, and I just go and have a quick squiz at this, and this is what I'm talking about around our integrations. If I zoom in at the bottom there, can you see that?
Yes.
Simple Pay. So Simple Pay is a payroll system, a South African-based payroll system, actually born out of Cape Town, and we integrate to them. So in other words, they go and run the payroll in Simple Pay, but the pay slip is sent to the employee on their Rubler mobile application. So that's what I'm talking about around creating this ecosystem and essentially having a full end-to-end system for a customer to utilize. Obviously, they don't need to have it. If a small little restaurant, they're running their own payroll manually or whatever it may be, but they want a rostering system, they can have it, right? It gives them more and more features, the more stuff that they take through the system. Expense management, so I've submitted a few travel claims. Well, Kerry submitted a few travel claims. Some of them have been approved, some of them have been declined. So this sort of replaces the need to keep the receipt and give it to the boss. So he can he can refund you, right? It's all digitally done, where you can take a photo of the receipt, put in what you sort of have spent, and send that to your manager for approval. On the Rubler application, and it's not the only way this is done, but on the Rubler application is a clock in and out solution whereby you can clock in for a shift. So I've arrived at the shop to do my job, or to do my shift that I was rostered for. It takes a photo. I can customize some questions that are part of the configuration setup. So here customers can keep track of things like temperature, health, wellness. We actually built this 2 years ago when COVID started.
All right, question there quickly. Sorry, I saw you typing in the number 36.
Yes.
So obviously you've taken your temperature independently with a thermometer.
Correct. We didn't get that far on actually building in there. We did, but we had to release this in like a month and a bit when COVID struck. But these questions can be anything. Do you want to talk to your manager? Are you having a good day? So I'm going to show you how to configure all of that and how to set that all up. But the customer can come up with any old questions that they want to keep record of, or workflow to managers or owners or whatever it may be. Did you have a good shift, or did you have a bad shift, or whatever that may be. So now I've submitted, and sorry, it's a bit delayed because it's mirroring on the phone, but I've clocked in successfully. Everything's done. And Kerry could clock in for a break. So she's going for a smoke, or she's come back after the smoke, and she can clock out at the end of the day as well. Again, takes a photo, and that photo is facial verification. So what that does is it puts it through the AWS service, which does facial verification on the individual. So it essentially maps the face for the first few clocks that the person does, and then knows that it's Nigel that's clocking in or clocking out. So you get that biometric component in the clock as well. How was your shift? Good, bad, ugly? That's more from a mental health point of view, that we're trying to sort of evolve into a company that also can track that kind of information as well through the process. So that sort of gives you the employee experience, and it's app-based, app-driven. And they can log into the internet and go onto a web page just like I have, and when they log in, they'll just see stuff that's only relevant to them. But now sort of taking this into where everything is controlled. So call this the control room of Rubler if you want. This is the web interface, and I've got a few things I need to show you. So first and foremost is the navigation. So I'm logged in as Nigel. I'm a super user. I can change business. You can't do that just yet, Joe, because you don't have any other businesses other than Tablet POS. Once you start adding customers, you'll be able to then move around to the other businesses that you guys have under your portfolio. So if you start adding restaurants or bars or whatever to it, you'll have a whole list of those customers that are set up there. The second thing is, you see obviously the logo. The Rubler logo is the standard one, but obviously when I showed you your Tablet POS one, you saw the Tablet POS logo there. Rubler can be white labeled, and when I say white labeled, to an extent, like you can change some of the color schemes, etc., but you can't change the fonts because they're obviously all hard coded from a what do you call it, a user interface point of view. The next thing is, you're going to notice about Rubler, it's really dashboardy, right? So it's not your typical software system like navigation, where you go file, then a drop down, and then file, a drop down. It's really dashboardy, and the reason why it's been created or designed like this is because essentially you want restaurant managers, you want retail managers, you want hospitality people on the floor. You don't want them behind the computer. The whole idea is that you're trying to create efficiencies in processes so that your people can be more on the ground, they can be more in front of your customers. instead of being in the back office behind a computer trying to do Excel sheets for rostering, or trying to figure out how many hours somebody worked and how much you need to pay them, etc. We want to create the opportunity for customers to do this in an efficient process and have it system led rather than led by individuals. So first and foremost, when you land, this is what I've got to do today. That's why it says hello Nigel, is that depending on who I am that logs in, I'll get information and tasks to do for me, not for the whole business, right? So the first and foremost is that you can see here from a location point of view, I can set up multiple locations, and this is fully configurable around how many locations I actually have. So I might have restaurant 1, 2, 3, 4. I've gone into location 4 now, and because I've got certain access to location 4, you'll notice the information that's come up here is different to what it was on the previous screen, because at the top of the tree, so the head office location, I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at the whole business down. Whereas if I'm a manager just of sub-location 2 or restaurant A, I'm only going to get information that's relevant to me at that location. So we've got multi-permission and multi-location configuration within Rubler. So it really allows for really big type of businesses, all the way to the sort of one location business that you might have as an artisanal coffee shop in the middle of Cape Town, to sort of a Spur Corp where you've got 10 or 15 franchisees using the system, and only certain franchisees must see certain shops and certain locations, etc. So quite sophisticated from who can see what and who can do what in the system. The second thing that you want to be looking at here is what I need to do. So this is what I call my call to action bar. So it tells me I've got 152 leave requests that I need to approve, 152 expense requests, 154, well, there's 2 businesses here, so that's why, 435 timesheets to approve, 85 shifts, and 1 employee requirement outstanding. And each of these call to action bars is telling me I need to do something with this, right? But it's effectively a module between each. So these are the modules we're going to focus on over the next couple of days in terms of training you up on what all these things mean. But ultimately, it gives the user a direct, this is what you need to do for the day. Instead of, okay, start here and try and figure it out, right? So it's a call to action, we call it, from a software point of view. The next thing is really core data that I need to know about in the shift-based employment space. So in other words, running a restaurant, I need to know some core information. I need to know how my business is running from a workforce management point of view. So I can see, my rostered hours versus my actual hours for the last 14 days. So I can kind of see trends. I can see that, the gray line is what I rostered, and the blue line is what actually happened. Now, this is where we really close a gap for a business, because typically they know what they plan, and then separate to that, they know what happens. But in no ways do they put these 2 things together. And for you to figure out productivity, to figure out, are you over rostering, underperforming, or whatever it may be, you need a comparison against what was planned versus actually what happened in the business. And that's what Rubler ties together. It ties together, what was planned versus what actually happened, and what was the result of that. And where do you need to start asking questions in the business to get it to operate more effectively, more efficiently, and more productively. So we can have a look here that, there's a certain trend of data here. I can see that in terms of the amount of hours that I rostered and used, the account of people. So in other words, on the 18th or 14th of May, I rostered 18 people, but I actually only used 15 of them. Now that could mean that, the others didn't pitch, or I sent them home early, or whatever it may mean, but it allows the business to now start asking questions throughout the course of the week instead of at the end of the month when you get an overtime bill of 300 hours. And these are the things that you knew about in the security industry, right?
Correct.
Is that it's almost too late when you have to write the check. It's almost too late. You've got to be making decisions as the business goes throughout the week to week, month to month, day to day in some cases. And having the data available is what's key to driving that productivity or efficiencies in the business. This is not a good one because you've got a demo account here, but I'll show you some real accounts where we can start to see this. But, what's my cost? So it's not just about my hours and how many people I'm using, is how much is it actually costing me from a rands and cents point of view. And this is another silver bullet of Rubler, is that I can tell you your exact manpower cost, down to the shift, down to the individual, to the lowest denominator, which is the hour. Rubler has what we call a dynamic work engine, which allows us to interpret an hour against the BCEA, or the basic conditions of employment, but also any other rule that a business might have. So you might say that, my guys, their night shift starts at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and it goes till 10 o'clock at night. We can program that rule as a custom rule for the business. So at 4 o'clock, anyone that's on shift, the system will automatically calculate the cost of that rate per hour times the 1.5 or the 2.0 or however your factor has worked. And it's completely configurable. I'm going to show you some examples of that. But it really does give the business the ability to understand how much a shift is costing and down to the rands and cents point of view, which means that I can start to figure out what did I plan it to cost me versus what did it actually cost me. And that's where you start to get ideas if you're on budget, out of budget, and you can start holding people accountable to the business. I can also see some trends. So this was last week's trend of timesheets in hours, count, and cost. So similar type of thing, where I can start to see, what was last week from an hours point of view. And you'll see this quite nicely when I flip over to some of our live customers. I can say, and there's some people in TogoSun that can't tell you this right now, but by just looking at a dashboard of TogoSun, I can tell you how many people are at every hotel right now. I can tell you what their hours are compared to last week. I can tell you what their cost versus their budget is just by looking at one single screen. And it's something they've never been able to say on the fly. They've always had to, okay, let's look at the management pack from last month and sort of go through those details. Today's staff, how many people are rostered to start? So I've got 6 people that haven't clocked in for the day. And I've got no one on shift just yet. I've got no one finished either. Well, Kerry is finished. Remember, Kerry clocked out.
She clocked out, yes.
Yeah, she clocked out. She only worked a minute. Typical Kerry. It's my ex-wife. A minute. Anyway, so that's our sort of on-time breakdown, so we can see what's going on with the staff. And then we've got a couple of other dashboards at the bottom here that sort of give us ideas of who's late, who's on time, and that sort of gives us the ability to manage staff from a disciplinary point of view, as well as am I using more staff because everybody's arriving late? Am I spending more money on my roster because people are having to stay an extra hour because they've arrived late? So again, begging the question of why is something happening in a business? So just to give you sort of a real-time view of something that you will know, Truth Coffee is our joint customer, so they're a Tablet POS customer as well as a Rubler customer, and we integrate Lightspeed into Tableau, into Truth system. So we can actually go and see now costs. But this is what his looks like today, right? So he's got 8 people in the shop as, were rostered. He's got 20 people in the shop right now as of, 1:45 in the afternoon. We can see who's there. We can kind of see, so last week he was using less hours than this week, Monday. So he's on a trend, but he's used less hours on Tuesday than he did last week. So why is that? Is the weather shit? Or, why are these kind of things happening? And then you can start to see he's kind of under rostering throughout the process. So he's under rostering, but he's overutilizing his time. And how does that, compare to costs in the business? So, let's just talk about the 7. So yesterday, spent 8 grand, budgeted 11. Something happened yesterday, but does translate in hours because we dropped hours from last week to this week. So what is happening? He's got a lot of late comers. Let's just see today. Out of the 20 people that are there, 7 were late today. So what the hell's going on, guys? And this allows it allows the business Truth Coffee to start asking questions to their management team and saying, guys, we don't have a hold on our staff, because it's right there. It's right in front of us. On time, 12, and no shows. He's got 1 that didn't pitch today, yet. And it's old Leon, the runner that was meant to be there, but he hasn't pitched today. So giving him a really good idea of what's going on in the business at a snap or as a view. Let me just go back into my demo. So yeah, just getting back into the demo then, just to understand the different modules of the system. So first and foremost, at the top here, we've got our different areas of the system that people use consistently. We've got the roster view. So if I click onto the roster, I'll go into what the roster looks like today or for this week. And then we're going to talk in detail around what you can see and how you can change views and how you can see what's important and how you can say, all right, well, show me all the costings related to this roster and how much money I'm going to make, and give me a table breakdown of all my rostered costs. Tell me how much money I'm making from a point of sale. So how much money is coming through from Lightspeed versus how much am I going to cost my roster with. I don't want to see it per week. I actually just want to see today, what's happening today. When is everybody working? So talking about today, here's the shifts that are all allocated for the day. Got some people starting at 1800, most people starting at 9 in the morning. And, who are those people and what are they going to cost me? If I click on the shift, just as an example, Jason, and I say, give me the breakdown, it's telling me what that cost breakdown is. So this person's earning a basic rate of pay for 8 hours, earning 34 Rand an hour. Therefore, that shift's going to cost us 279 Rand. Now, if there were things like night shift allowances or meal allowances or early arrival allowances or whatever it may be, overtime, 1.5, Sunday work, public holiday work, or any of those things that you were used to back in security days, those would all appear here in a nice breakdown. So all of that can be brought into the system from a calculation point of view. And just to give you some idea, this is a published roster, which means that everybody knows about the roster. If I unpublish it and I go and, draw that that shift out, what you'll all of a sudden see is that, sorry, what's happened here now? I'm just going to go and recost this. What you're going to see is that it will recost the shift significantly. Maybe I've got a rule here that's not working correctly. Maybe it's limited to 8 hours or something. Anyway, but in real time, that shift should recost, and it should tell me exactly you know, what the shift should cost specifically. There we go. You can see it's recosted the shift now to 209 Rand instead of 260 bucks because I'm less than 8 hours. So maybe the rule set up to pay a maximum of 8 hours per day. And then obviously publishing that roster. Publishing the roster means I'm telling people about it, which we're going to go into some detail about when we get into the detailed side of this. We've got roster in terms of the planning side. We then have timesheets in terms of, okay, what has happened? And you'll see Kerry here. Kerry clocked in and out, and she clocked in using her mobile phone. There's the camera photos that we've got. We've also got the ability to then see that on a map. So it picks up geolocation as well. We don't have geofencing just yet, but it's in our pipeline for delivery end of July, which essentially will allow us to say, well, you can't clock in if you're not at work. But at the moment, I can see that's exactly where I am in Johannesburg right now. That's our office, actually, right over there.
Is that pin location at the time of clocking in or current live location?
No, at the time of transaction.
Okay.
So you'll see there's two transactions there. There's a clock in and a clock out. And if there were two different locations, you would actually have the two mapped locations as well. And this is great for, like, you know, people that are like sales reps, or, you know, people that need to go from one store to the next and clock out their work there exactly. So we've got, you know, 1 minute this Kerry worked. She wasn't associated to any shift, but we're going to show you how that all comes up. We've got some alerts telling us, hey, you know, this person was not associated to any shifts. She wasn't planned to come in. She just sort of pitched. We've got a whole alerts system that can, you know, stop people from clocking in if they're not rostered, or clocking out if they're not planned to clock out. We've got a whole host of features there, which we're going to go through in quite a lot of detail. I can then approve. I can edit this timesheet if I wanted to, but if I approve the timesheet, I can, because it's 1 minute, it's not going to give me any costing, but I'll show you just now on Truth Coffee again. It's going to pay me 23 cents for that 1 minute. That's what my cost is. So you can see that. Then we've obviously got our leave module. Kerry submitted some leave, and, you know, I can approve that leave. I can go and see it a little bit more in detail, what it's all about. Has she put in annual leave, or what did she say it was, and what her balance is? And I can go and approve that as well, and tell Kerry that she can take that day off. I can also see the leave in the roster. So the roster doesn't just become the roster, but it also becomes a leave calendar. So I can actually see who's on leave before I roster them. It only makes sense that you pull those things down together. So what have we looked at the moment? We looked at the dashboarding. We've looked at, obviously, some of our on-time dashboards, etc. We've shown you the roster and essentially just a view of how that works, and we're going to go into detail. Time and attendance, leave, which are essentially three modules which are well connected to each other as well. Also want to show you then, how do people get onto the system? And this is what you're going to be left with for the end of the day, is I want you to go and hire yourself. And I'm going to direct you through that at the last part of today's call. But you're going to go and invite a employee, which is going to be Jason's Gmail, to become an employee of the Tablet POS system. And you're going to see how that process effectively goes through onboarding digitally an employee through a process of acquiring all the information that you need to manage them, as well as payroll them, even if you need be, right? So what I'm going to do is just show you quickly how this kind of works. I'm going to onboard Nigel Ritson, Nigel J. Ritson at Gmail. So it's a new employee that I've got joining the organization. Yeah, he exists already. So thanks for telling me that. I'm going to employ him as a cook. I'm going to put him at a specific restaurant. He's going to go on the monthly payroll. He's going to be a full-time employee earning, let's say, 3,000 a month, and he's going to work, 45 hours a week, and he's reporting to this Adrian person, and we're going to start him today. I might just say, hey, please onboard yourself. And I'm going to send him the notification. So what this does is it sends a digital invite to that employee, right? Now let me just show you what your expectation is going to be when you see this. So I'm just going to go into my Gmail. Oh, man. So I'm going into my personal Gmail address, and I'm going to see that I've received an email from, and in your case, you're going to see it coming from Tablet POS.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing it from SA Demo 2, right? So here's the email that I've got from the system. So I'm a new employee. You've given me the good news that I got the job. Now I'm going to go and onboard myself, right? So here's, please onboard yourself. Okay, all good. That's the salary Jason told me about. I'm happy about that. I'm going to go now onboard myself. So I click on the link, and it takes me to a process that is really consistent. It's routine. It's the same every time. And one of the biggest challenges that a lot of these multi-location restaurants have is that, the waiter will join all at the shop, but he'll have a lot of paperwork. So he completes some of the paperwork and some of it not. And I'm sure you had this problem in the security industry. And half the stuff comes back to head office. They can't pay him. His bank details are wrong, whatever it may be. So you get no consistent approach to sort of onboarding an employee. So me as Nigel, as this new employee, I'm going to go and complete this onboarding piece. Now you might say, well, you know what, Nigel, some waiters don't have smartphones and they can't do this kind of thing. Yes, I agree with you, Jay. It's getting better. Every single day, someone's a little bit more digitally enhanced in this country. In Australia, it works beautifully because you can't live in Australia without a smartphone, or in Singapore, or in the UK. But in South Africa, you can still live without one, right? So in that case, yes, then I'm going to have to capture this manually onto the system, and it's a bit of a ball ache. But for the people that don't, and we underestimate sometimes the technology advancedness of our people. They've all got Facebook, they've all got WhatsApp. So hey, if you can sign up for a WhatsApp account and you can sign up for a Facebook account, you can most definitely onboard yourself through Rubla. I can guarantee you that. So anyway, I'm going to go and put all the information in here that I have. Obviously, I've done this before, so a lot of my information is pre-populating. I'm putting my driver's license or a copy of my ID. And if I'm doing this on the phone, it's taking a photo. So this little thing over here, it starts your camera when you click it, and you take a photo of your ID book or whatever it may be, right? Or any additional information that you might need. So do I need someone to have a first aid certificate? Do I need them to do X, Y, Z, So all of that can be configured. Some of the localized information here for South Africa, putting an ID number, it's that ID number as well. So you'll notice that is my actual ID number. My skills and qualifications, I can update. I can put my financial information here. So I'm going to get paid by banks, and you can see, there's the list of the South African banks that are there. I'm just going to leave that on cash for now. Emergency contact details, medical details that you can capture yes or no answers to. And this can be a bit less than this, but we find that the restaurant industry is actually great for them to get this from a workforce health and safety point of view. Understanding that the guy's got a problem with his leg is quite important if he's meant to be on his feet the whole day. Anyway, so carried on. And then as soon as he signs this document, he's onboarded into the system, and he becomes part of what we call the employee master file data set. Okay, and you're going to see this when you onboard yourself in your system. But the employee master data set is over here. So this is where I've got all my employees in one neat section, in, call it one file in the cloud that I'll never lose, that I'll never have a fire in the HR office and lose the cabinet with all the people's information in it, because it's in the cloud, you know. And if I need to prove to the EFF that that Barnito is a local employee or a local citizen, I don't need to go and get the information from the office. I can get it straight off the system. I can go and download his ID number and show the guys, hey, this guy's a local, right? So here's all the information for Barnito. He onboarded himself. This is his HR file, if you want to call it this. So I've got all his personal information nicely laid out over here, his address information, everything that came through from that onboarding side. His work rights information, so his ID number, if he'd uploaded his copy of his ID, it would be here. His bank accounts, that the bank account numbers or whatever it may be. If it's connected to payroll, we would have all his pay slips here, kept nicely as time goes on, and all the information around his, employment type, pay level, everything that you need from an HR point of view. Any additional information, asset registers. You want to keep, I've given this guy a uniform, and I'm sure you used to do that in the security space. This guy's got a walkie-talkie. What's the asset number of it? So all of that kind of stuff can be configured and set up accordingly. Documents and notes, any documents that he signed through the onboarding process, or any additional documents, warning letters, section 195s, whatever it may be that you want to put up here, you can add additional documents, or you can have them workflow directly into the person's little folder here, that you can keep everything on record, and you can tear up, some of that paper that you've been keeping. Emergency contact information, great if you need to get in touch with them quickly. It's also good. It's probably a health and safety requirement as well, especially on site, that you have all this information from your employees that are actually on site. Some settings, time and attendance, what their leave balances are. Again, if connected to a payroll, you'd be able to see your leave balances that are filtering through from the payroll. And one of those things is leave is very closely knitted to payroll, because leave is actually a liability, right, to a business. So if you've got 4 days leave due to you, that's actually something on the balance sheet for the business. So that's why it lives in the payroll. But if it's connected to the payroll, we can get leave balances through from the different payroll systems that we've got. Requirements of qualifications. So in other words, do I have a medical first aid certificate? Do I have a forklift driver's license that I need because I need to drive a forklift somewhere in the shop? Or, in Singapore, we had what we called food handler certificate, which, every 6 months you had to be qualified to actually be a waiter. You can't, it's like being a pilot. You couldn't just deliver food to someone's table, right? In South Africa, it's not so bad. But so this certificate expires every 6 months, and you can't get a shift if you don't have a valid certificate. So Rubler controls all of that for you. So it controls, have you, is your security clearance certificate, has it expired? Because then you shouldn't be able to actually be on site. You shouldn't be having a shift.
Yes.
So Rubler has all of that as features and benefits. Some of it's over the top for a small little restaurant, but you can imagine, and Jay, this is one of the things that, and I hope you don't mind me calling you Jay.
No, go for it.
But Jay, I must be honest with you, the South African restaurant industry has got away with blue murder for many years from a compliance point of view. And it's tightening up now. When we talk about things like minimum wage, are you paying your people right? Do you have the right combination of local citizens working in your restaurant versus asylum seekers from Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
And I mean, yes, this is having added pressure to the restaurant industry, but it is the right thing to do. It is the right thing to pay people a minimum salary. It is the right thing to hire, citizens before you go and hire people that are not legal in the country. And all of that, you can, some of the restaurants would be caning me now by saying this, but it is the right thing to do. To run a valid industry is to run it in the light of the law. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of guys that have been curbing that and not taking this stuff seriously enough. And at the end of the day, you can't have a healthy economy, I suppose, if you're not doing things the right way. And that's what Rubler supports, right? Because the last thing you want, the last thing famous brands want, is their name in the newspaper saying that they're underpaying staff, where it's one of their franchisees.
Correct.
That yes, he's had $1 million, he retired, and he said, well, let me buy a Steers. So he buys a Steers and he underpays everybody. And then who gets it in the arse? Famous brands, not him, because it's their brand on the window. So we're really trying to educate the market and the franchise networks and the business to what are the risks of not doing this. It's the opportunity of cost of not taking into account compliance, human resource management, and not making it important enough in the business. Just focusing on how many beers you can sell is not the way to run a business. Anyway, reporting hierarchy, who does this person report to? Where can he work? Because, we're talking about the gig economy here, Jane. It's really quite exciting, what COVID has presented the market from a workforce management point of view. We've seen Togo Sun move their entire employee database to a rate per hour. Now, they used to pay basic salaries, but then the hospitality industry crashed. And now they're paying people rate per hour. They've seen their productivity shoot up by something like 33%, because now people are wanting to work because they get paid per hour to work, right? We've seen a shift in, okay, I've got 5 restaurants and each restaurant's got 10 people. So I've got 50 people that I employ, rather than, okay, this restaurant's not busy on a Monday, so I'm going to shift 3 of the people to another restaurant on the Monday from this restaurant. So the gig space, moving people around, has become it never used to be a big thing. It used to always be a pitch that we used to say, hey guys, having a centralized rostering system means you can send people to different places. You can sort of look at demand. How's demand meeting supply in terms of your manpower cost? And Rubler enables you to do that. But never more than recently has that become something that people are actually doing. Mm-hmm. So it's really become something of a benefit now to have a centralized planning place, and Rubler is that centralized place to enable the business to become more efficient. So here's all my people, like I've shown you. You will see if we go and have a look at old Kerry Slater. There's her little employment file, and if we went in there, we'd see all that information I've just showed you from Bonita on that side of the system. Yeah. So onboarding, employee master file data, and then I've got a couple of other things that are sideline activities to the system, which is I've got a document warehouse. So this is where I can upload documents. Company notice, there's a third wave coming. I want to send that to everybody in the business and ask Kerry to sign it, that she's seen it. So then I've got acknowledgement from an HR point of view that that information has been seen. Sort of like the Dropbox for Rubler, if you want to call it that. You can upload files, I can create files, I can create folders, and I can workflow. I can let some people see it, some people not. If it's a file specifically for the general managers, only the general managers can see that file, and inside those files you can keep obviously different documents and notes and whatever it may be. So that's the document side of Rubler. Obviously, the expense claim side of things, this is where when you submit a claim, it can be approved, and I can see the claim from a document point of view. So if they've uploaded a document like a receipt from a lunch or whatever it may be, those documents would be there for my audit team to see, and I'll never lose that. I don't know if you've ever had that problem, but back in the day when I had to submit slips, I always used to lose half the slips.
It happens.
Yeah, and accounts would always come back to me and say, no, well, we can't refund you because you don't have the slip. So that sort of mitigates that side of things as well. I've got a whole reporting suite where I can sort of go into employee reporting, so I can go and see a whole analysis there. Everything's available on Excel and PDF. I can go into some analysis reporting as well, so have a look at sort of my lateness reports, clocking questions, who's asked a few questions through that process as well. And then an analysis area where I can go and see, all right, what is my variance by location, by sales, and or by manpower cost? So I can sort of get physical Excel reports out of this data section. Got a nice business intelligence area, which tells me a lot about the business from a snapshot point of view. So I can go and see, right, for the week, let's go and have a look at last week. What was my hours cost versus my sales, and therefore what was my efficiency? Now, efficiency is a cool word, and I'm going to go into truth just to give you some real data around BI, because this is obviously all demo data. So if I go to business intelligence, let's go and have a look at his business intelligence, and we go for the week last week. So what we can see here immediately is that last week he was running at an efficiency rate of 24%. He forecasted 24 and he hit 24. Which this is telling me, Joe, that Ken is watching this every day, because his sales, his rostered cost was different from his timesheeted cost, and his sales was different from what he predicted to what he got, right?
Yes.
But what he's done is he's planned it. So by the end of the week, he's reduced his hours, he's increased his people, he's controlled this to get to what he forecasted is actually what happened. Because it might not have happened on the same, you can see here throughout the course of the day, his course of the week, right? His rostered cost, so this is what he rostered, actually was, what he actually used was more than what he planned. But yes, he had a great, if this was the same and that was what was forecasted, he would have been running at a higher efficiency rate, which means the business would have done worse. But essentially, he was watching the sales number and he was governing this process, which ultimately allowed him to govern the efficiency. And what does 24% mean, Joe? It means for every R1 that he made, 24 cents went to labor. That's what it means. That's what that percentage means. So if you think about it, 24% of every rand pays for your labor. That's a big percentage, right? It's a big percentage of your income. Now, if you can control that by 2 or 3%, imagine the beauty of being able to control that one massive controllable cost in your business. And it's the biggest single controllable cost in a restaurant. You can't control your inventory. You can't control how much the spinach is going to cost.
Yeah.
You can't control, I don't know, how many people are going to, the rain or the weather. You can control the people you use, how long you use them, and at what rate you use them at. So this is a big thing. It's a big business builder, understanding the labor efficiency in the business itself. We've got a settings page, which we're going to talk about in detail when we get to setup and showing you what each of these little buttons mean. But, some customers will only see a few of these buttons, depending on which ones they have available to them. And then obviously we've got a help, online chat and service desk, open till 8 o'clock every night in South Africa. But we're going to start extending that. We're hiring some people here. We've got a lot of knowledge-based resources. So if you say roster as an example here, and you type it in, you'll get every resource that we've created about smart rostering, roster templates, and all that information. And then obviously live chat, which is not bot related. It's actually it's physical people. Oh, should I spelled hello wrong? It's physical people that will answer this. Good to test it. Actually see who picks it up. There we go. Rika Rose joined the chat. So we host a lot of this out of Philippines. So we've got a whole service team in the Philippines that are there servicing us. Thanks, just testing. But this is typically where customers come and get their information from, Jay. So even from a tablet POS point of view, you guys are going to have this service. So I don't want you dealing with customers asking stupid questions. This will be something that our support division will help with, as well as in combination with your support at Tablet POS, because you guys have got your own support. But this live chat will really take away any pain that you might have with customers that that come on, because you'll have an experienced team of people behind you, sort of supporting the process. So that's Rubler in a nutshell. In terms of high level, obviously, what I want to start going through with you is obviously the individual modules, and that's where the beauty starts to come out around, how quickly can I roster my staff? I mean, yes. Good old Ken does the roster he has a couple of people that do the roster every week, but you can kind of see the data points that he's looking at here, and it's all there. How much is this going to cost me? Oh, it's earning 6 hours normal time. That's cool. This guy over here, why is he earning so much? Sunday hours. You can see that?
Yes.
So it's at obviously 1.5 of his rate. So really a lot of data, but a lot of critical data. And some nice stuff here. He's got this week shifts 198, hours 1,440, and cost is that. If we look at last week, what was, there's his cost estimate there. He doesn't have his efficiency breakdown here. I don't know why, but maybe it's because he hasn't put his forecast in or something. But yeah, we can get that in detailed totals. We can get that in a graph format, so we can actually see it from a graph view on how the days materialize. So we can actually see that, and this is quite nice if you look at it by the day. So if you go and have a look at this by day, you actually see that graph and how it moves throughout the course of a specific day. But all of that, we're going to start focusing on what are the other benefits or other ways of time and attendance and clocking in and clocking out. What I'd like you to do for now, Jay, is I want you to onboard that Jason Gmail guy.
I will do that.
But you can log into this the front end, hey? Have you tried to log into the actual web interface?
No, I can do that. No.
Okay. All right. So what I'd like you to do is Sure, I don't know why my system's so slow. Give me a sec. Sorry, my PC gives me, I think it's time for a new computer. I think might be because my battery was about to collapse. Hold on, let me just check here. Okay. Just want to check you've got everything available to you. And yeah, I'm going to set up some time tomorrow afternoon and then some time Friday afternoon, and we'll focus on the big modules. And then Monday, Tuesday, another couple of modules, couple of benefits to each of them. We'll record each of these sessions. So then you'll be able to refer back to them. And then Charlene planning to come down Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to do the implementation. So by then you'll know how everything works. You'll have seen how it works on your phone. You'll see how everything comes together, and you'll be able to, by then, also implement it. So when you go into the tablet POS section, you will go to management, you'll go higher, right? And I want you to take note of what happens in that process, just so you can understand the flow. So go to the invite like we did, right? Mm-hmm. And go and onboard Jason, put in your Gmail address there. Select that main position. I'm going to show you how we add positions. Select maybe sub-location if you want. What permission level? He's going to be an employee. Just select monthly pay for now. Put in a rate of pay. Reporting to. You can select any of these people, and then put a commencement date for today's date, and then send that to yourself, Joe. And then
I actually got it on my phone.
Yeah, and follow that process through on your Gmail. Follow the onboarding. Type out all the details as if you were employing yourself, right? Obviously, make up rubbish around your bank details and stuff. Just select any old thing. And then what I would want you to see is finish that or complete it, right? And then go to the employee section and go and find that JSON in the employee section of Rubler. So you'll go and see that JSON. Jason will get an email. You've already downloaded the app, but maybe log out of the one that you're in, right?
Yeah.
And so log out of that profile, because I want you to log in
as my employee profile.
Yeah, 100%. Because then when you're rostering your employee, Jason, you're going to see, okay, he gets a notification. You're going to see, oh, he's applied for a leave and blah, blah, blah. So, and so on and so on. So I think, if you could do that by tomorrow, and if you could just go and touch base around some of these modules in the training course.
Yes,
I think that would really give you a great first hit at the system. But I'm going to send you another meeting invite for tomorrow afternoon. I'm just going to work some timing, and then Friday afternoon as well. Maybe we can end off on a beer.
Yes.
But looking forward to it, mate. I hope. How do you feel about all that? All good?
No, it's good. It's a good start, and you haven't lost me anywhere yet, so that's good.
That's good. That's good.
I just want to see the gears clicking over.
Yeah, 100%. All right, we'll go and do that onboarding piece, and then feel free to go and say, okay, well, what happens if I go and try and roster Jason now in the roster? Just play with it. It's yours to play with. And then we'll touch base tomorrow.
All good.
Sounds good, bud.
Thank you. Cheers, man.
Cheers, Bye-bye.
Bye.